So here we go with Giant Slalom 7 of 10 on the Audi FIS Alpine Ski Racing World Cup Tour. Nick Fellows and Ed Drake, our expert analyst, in the commentary box. First man out on course is Henrik Kristoffersen. Kristoffersen lying second in the Giant Slalom Tour standings. He needs to start winning in the last 4 GS races of the season, but understandably brimming with confidence after a sensational gold in the very last race of the World Championships, the men's slalom, where he went from 16th after the first run to gold medalist by the end of the second. Easy start, nice turns to get into the rhythm and tempo, and then the work begins, Ed.
Yeah, it does, and he didn't make a good start to that on the steep sections, and he's made a howler there as well. Not able to take advantage of the early bid, but Kristoffersen really not looking at home on this softer snow surface, is he?
And it's freshly fallen, soft snow, something we've seen so rarely on the men's World Cup Tour this season. Huge errors from the Norwegian, trying his best to make up, but struggling, and that's not going to be a winning opening run, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, really going to find himself down the order with this one. He'll be super frustrated again.
Let's watch the clock. 1.09.09 seconds for Henrik Kristoffersen. Now watch the body language. He knows that the errors have come. He knows that's not clean. Error-free is so often being the first of the key skills and tactics on the men's tech tour. There are so many good skiers out there today, Ed.
There really are. This was early on at the top of the hill, and you can see emergency manoeuvres right into the powder that's been pushed off the racing line. And I think a very tough start today. Physically as well, you can see how tough that is on the lungs.
Let's go to Lucas Braathen. Already there's a slight bit of fresh snow starting to fall at the top of the track, or is that the snow off the trees? Nonetheless, Lucas Braathen, who had that massive hiccup at the beginning or the early part of this month with his appendix removed, came as a shock to everybody after the Giant Slalom in Schladming, where he skied into 10th position. But he's won in Alta Badia. Can he win in California, Ed?
That's certainly a better entry into the steep section than his teammate. And before that, he even found himself a half a second to the good. This is looking good from Braathen. Some nice early switches onto that new outside ski and then into the next technical section where we saw Kristoffersen make another error.
Still, there's an air of hesitation. Perscher, the Austrian coach that has set these 50 gates, of which 48 are turning, has made it quite technical, and that's what you didn't want it to be.
Yeah, I didn't really want it to be so technical because of this snow surface, and it's certainly going to cut up, isn't it, as we go on?
It'll get bumpy, it'll get rutted as each of the skiers follow that same optimum racing line. But we have a new leader, it's Lucas Braathen. The question is, how fast is it? 0.33, right side of the clock, considering the errors from Kristoffersen. I would have liked to have seen more.
Yeah, I think Kristoffersen easily gave away a second against his own time in terms of the mistakes that he made. So I expect to see somebody come down there and dominate this hill. I just wonder, you know, did he just not quite have the timing there? On the snow, on the hard snow surface, it's instinctive. On this snow surface, you really need to feel. And when you've been off for a bit of time, maybe that affected his run.
Let's go to Jan Kranjec of Slovenia, coming off the back of a 6th position in the World Championship Giant Slalom. But Jan, well, 3 podiums, 4 races left to go, Ed, before the Giant Slalom Tour title is decided. Jan needs to start winning races. He knows it, we know it, and his fans across the globe, I'm sure, agree with us.
Absolutely. He just sort of seems to have hiccuped and faltered slightly at the mid part of this season for me. I'd love to see him kick on now that he is on to this American snow. Let's see how he deals with it. He's got such a beautiful technique, so very two-footed, which could suit softer conditions because it means that you don't dig quite as deep into that softer surface.
Slight air of caution from those opening turns. Let's watch the next split time. These are the fall-away turns, and he's 0.44 off the pace, struggling to find the rhythm and tempo here.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Really hasn't got the entry point into these, and this course really is very tough by the Austrians. He would have set this knowing the conditions, the snow surface conditions would be like this, so very interesting call from the Austrian coach.
0.34, now he starts to find top gear. Jan Kranjec of Slovenia, and of course an Olympic silver medalist in Giant Slalom, working his way in the closeout now. Finally finds the pace, dips for the line. 0.31 behind Lucas Braathen. Well, As to use Ed's words, he thought that Kristoffersen had a howler. Yeah. But right now, he's holding third position, and he's only just over 3/10 down.
I know, and he made some ridiculous errors on that run, didn't he? And this was one where we just saw slightly too tight on the base of that panel from Kranjec, just pushed him wider into the racing line, but somehow Braathen leads by only 0.3 of a second.
Anybody's for the taking on this first run. Here we go with the first of the French skiers. This is Alexis Pinturault, brimming with confidence after a brilliant World Championships in his hometown in front of his home crowd. The gold medalist in the Alpine combined, a bronze medalist in the Super G, also 7th in the Giant Slalom. It's a classic example of a completely rejuvenated. He's been unhappy on the, some have said it, quite depressed with his performances on the World Cup Tour. But now Pinturault out there enjoying his ski racing again.
I just think the expectation is not there from everybody else for Pinturault's performances now. So maybe, hopefully, he's able just to take, you know, take those shackles off and get racing and get skiing with a smile on his face, which I don't think we've seen him for a long time being able to do.
And Pinturault has promised us that slalom will be a thing of the past and downhill will be his discipline of the future. Certainly looking to see more speed from Pinturault, but he's a textbook technician, and look at these skills. He's in absolute harmony with the mountain, flowing from gate to gate, and look at Pinturault eating up the terrain here.
Yeah, and it swings a lot into the finish area, and Pinturault really tidy on those closeout turns.
France take the lead by 0.08 of a second. Well, I expected more, I have to say.
It's just a bit bitty, isn't it? I think this course, it just doesn't seem to flow from turn to turn. Each section looks like it doesn't really flow. So I think it's really one of those, maybe not necessarily the easiest to watch in terms of from a viewer's perspective, but it's all about being able to read what's happening in front of you with the turn shape and the snow.
Here's the current Giant Slalom and overall Tour World Cup leader. It's Marco Odermatt, fresh off the back of a double gold. Most successful male athlete at the 47th FIS Alpine Ski Racing World Championships. Gold in downhill, gold in Giant Slalom. Now, Pinturault said it himself in his pre-race interview. I just want to pick it up where I left off and get back to World Cup business as usual.
Yeah, and I expect to see him do that. He really does throw caution to the wind no matter what the occasion, so I'd love to see him go charging out of here nice and smooth over that initial breakover. No panic, being slightly offline, and Odermatt doing what Odermatt does best, nice and smooth in those transitions, and it looks like he's carrying some good speed at this point.
I love the fact that he's so high and early, clean in that racing line. He gets that edge pressure turn so clean and effective. Watch the first key split, 0.11. Time to find for Odermatt, just dragging the inside hand a little on the snow of the fall-away turns. So far, so good. Oh, there's another little drop low and deep in the line.
Yeah, just lost the outside ski purchase, didn't he? There's a slight fall away on those right foots, but again, when the physical energy levels are starting to dip, he's got so much fitness, this guy, able to push it all the way through.
Soft snow to icy, the conditions changing from gate to gate. Odermatt challenging Pinturault. Odermatt takes the lead by a good margin. 0.25, the right side of the clock for Marco Odermatt. Well, he didn't think it felt that good. You can clearly see that from the body language. Let's have a close look, Ed.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to get to the bottom and feel good down there. I really don't, Nick. But yeah, a couple of times he lost the purchase on the outside ski, but he managed to pick it up again. He managed to right those wrongs on the way down.
Loïc Meillard now, the World Championship silver medalist, looking to try and beat his great rival back on the World Cup Tour. Now, Loïc Meillard, 26 years of age, winning the Giant Slalom. That was the last World Cup of the season in Schladming, back on the 25th of January. But of course, Ed, Odermatt was not racing in that competition, resting the knee after the near miss, many believe, in Kitzbühel. Here's a chance for Meillard after the World Championships to seek revenge on his teammate
but not when they're on the mountain. But he's skiing so well at the moment, isn't he? I think he got the better of Odermatt on that second run as well, didn't he, in Meribel-Courchevel World Championship. So he knows that he can beat his teammate, that's for sure. Even on the World Cup Tour run-to-run, not over 2 runs yet, but look at how solid he is on those skis, using that newfound strength that we're now getting used to seeing from Meillard. But already you can see, keep an eye on the feet. They're bouncing through the ruts that are already formed. Yeah, well spotted. It's getting very bumpy, and this is a bit of a disappointment because we're only at race number 6, and that rut can slow you down by forcing you to make that rounder turn. Loïc Meillard drops down into 6th position. That is behind Henrik Kristoffersen. Didn't find the blend, did he, Nick? I don't think he really didn't find that flow. And we're about to see whether the Austrians have played a blinder here or whether they might live to regret this technical and unrhythmical set. Now, there's our current leader, but what Ed is referring to is the next racer in the gate is Marco Schwarz. The main tech coach, Michael Pirscher. Pirscher used to be Marcel Hirscher's coach, is now with the men's Austrian team. He set it with Marco Schwarz in mind. Now, the World Championship bronze medalist, who was the busiest and most consistent worker at the World Championships. 2nd in the Alpine combined, 5th in the Super G, 3rd in the GS, 4th in the downhill, and 6th in the slalom. I wonder how heavy those legs are. Yeah, I think that's the question on everybody's lips. I mean, he sort of defied the odds, didn't he, still with those performances at the end, but pushed onto the heels. That's certainly going to sap some energy away. But as you'd expect from Schwarz, he's got such a lovely touch, and he does have such a beautiful feeling underneath his feet. So if anybody can try and marry up the ability to press, but also trying to stay fluid, it's this guy. Well, we often debate whether it's an advantage or not if your coach sets the pattern of turns down the mountain. I think, if nothing else, it just relaxes you in the mind, psychologically, more than anything else. But it's green to green, still the right side of the clock. Marco Schwarz at the halfway point, just 3/10 behind Odermatt. Yeah, it's a shame he lost a couple of tenths through the ruts over there. But again, skiing smooth. He's trying to let the skis go, but getting late. This is the first of the Austrians. No gold medals from the Worlds, but in the hunt today. 4/10 off the pace. Yeah, I don't think that's that bad, Nick. Do you think? I think it could have got worse, considering that he was at that on the second to last split, the penultimate split. This was early on, where he got the weight caught through the heels, but again, still found the strength somehow after skiing double the amount to everybody else pretty much over the last 10 days or so. As we said at the top of the show, you have to analyse with your head, not your heart, because he's such a nice guy that everybody wants to see win. But 4/10 off the pace leaves him work to do against Odermatt on the second leg. Now, this is a skier that we need to watch carefully. Gino Caviezel, coming off the back of his 3rd career podium in the last World Cup Giant Slalom on the Men's World Cup Tour in Schladming. Runner-up to Loïc Meillard, part of a Swiss 1-2. Gino Caviezel with his brother, now retired, Mauro Caviezel, would dearly love to put in a podium for his older brother. His brother was a winner here, a winner on the Men's World Cup event, and Mauro, a Super G and Val d'Isère winner. Ooh. Right on the ragged edge there, Nick. He was going very, very direct, and he's continued to do that again. Inside ski errors have dogged this guy's career over the last couple of years, which has definitely robbed him of more high quality and podium performances. So I'd love to see him just get a tiny bit more separated at the start of the turn, just to eliminate some of those risky inside ski turns that when they go right really, really well, and he carries some good speed, but too often he ends up on his inside ski. It's good words. It is a very unorthodox set, I have to say. And Gino Caviezel now stops the clock. 0.85. You cannot give Marco Odermatt that kind of advantage in a 2-leg competition. Gino Caviezel, will be frustrated, no question. Very icy, some of the fall-away turns where they've scrubbed the fresh snow off, but then very soft in others. I think the thing that's been tricky is that they've injected and watered this hill to try and get it nice and hard, but then all the fresh snow on top, so you don't know quite if it's been cold enough underneath the fresh snow to try and get that piece nice and solid. Let's take a look at racer number 9. This is Manuel Feller. Well, we were all heartbroken when he lost his chance of winning the World Championship Slalom Gold, leading after the first run. Then blew it on the second leg. But we know that Manuel Feller, when he brings his A game,
is one of the most exciting, one of the most dynamic racers on the Men's World Cup Tour. But he just struggles with that consistency. Oh, look at that full extension. Amazing recovery skills, but recovery skills means that the racer is scrubbing off time.
It's so frustrating. I'd love to see this guy chalk a win up, because I feel like he deserves it. He skied so well on just individual runs, just hasn't got it together. We used to see this from him about 4 or 5 years ago, that inconsistency, and then over the last couple of seasons he's found that consistency, and then all of a sudden these sort of gremlins have started creeping back in, and he's getting a bit of a reputation for crumbling under the pressure. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but it's too often over the last season he's been leading and then DNF.
He's one of the real characters of the Men's World Cup Tour, popular around the world with his music that is also his other passion in life. But Manu Feller struggles again. 1 or 2 brilliant turns, but you've got to link them all together. 1.04. I think, Ed, your point is very valid, because the gremlins are now starting to creep into Manu Feller. More of a psychological issue rather than his ski technique.
Yeah, I think so, because he'll be frustrated. I mean, we're frustrated watching him, and as a fan of his, we know that he can deliver more, but he's going to know it. So it's going to be creeping into his mind the fact that he keeps not able to convert those performances, and I think that showed.
First of the Germans, and a world champion, newly crowned parallel giant slalom champion, is Alexander Schmid. He's had 5 top 10 results on the Men's World Cup Tour, but yet to claim a place on the podium. And under a little bit of pressure now, Ed. Gold medal in the back pocket, brilliant performance, but still hasn't won on the World Cup Tour.
Yeah, and I thought the conditions over in Courchevel in the giant slalom were made for this guy, because I'm probably going to eat my words here, but he normally has such strength and loves it when it's rock hard ice, because he's got such a lovely linked carve to his GS skiing that I thought those solid conditions were really going to suit him, but he wasn't able to convert. He really looked out of sorts. I don't know.
Oh, and there's the first DNF. Just hit the gate before the fall away. I think it's called lower red dog, the position on the piste that Schmid is in here right now. But
long way to come.
Long journey for a DNF, and Schmid, well, he may race the slalom, but it's a long way off his win radar. Hits the gate, little twisted, game over.
Yeah, he was just looking to try and come underneath so he could take some height into that steep section, but he just started to turn slightly too early, got hooked up on that right-footed gate, and was then able to really sort of arc underneath it to get height into the next turn. DNF, that's a tough way to start the weekend.
American crowd are on their feet because River Radamus from Steamboat Springs, Colorado, will be the next skier in the gate. River had a good World Championships, 4th, 12th, 16th individually. Of course, Team USA won the mixed team parallel gold. Now, Radamus chasing his first giant slalom World Cup podium. Tommy Ford was the last American to win a World Cup on home snow, Beaver Creek, Colorado, back in 2019. But River, confident. And the Americans have this natural ability of being able to raise their game when they perform in front of their home crowd. Beautiful opening turns from Radamus, already a quarter of a second the right side of the clock.
Yeah, I think he has raised his game, Nick. Some beautiful turns, some lovely sort of starts to the turn where he's able to find that really lovely, solid platform. And you know what? I think it's about time we saw his best now. He's 25 years old. He's been on the World Cup for a little bit of time, and I think this is a great opportunity for him to really step up and become a consistent podium warrior. I don't know, what's the right word? Podium performer?
Chaser.
Maybe? Chaser, there you go, thank you.
Just a little ragged on these closing turns. He's caught one of the panels and taken the red flag with him across 2 turns. Has he kept that green light?
Oh.
No, the error's creeping in. Wonderful work on the opening turns into the midsection. But the closeout now, River Radamus, 25-year-old American, he's just struggling. Plenty of support from the crowd, as you'd expect. River Radamus. Oh, heartbreaking. 1.56 off the pace after such a brilliant set of opening turns. Easily the better of Odermatt until about gate 25, and then it started going wrong.
Yeah, then he just started going direct, and he looked to try and use his strength and power to get it done. But that's where he got hooked up in the flag. Cost him a bit of time just coming onto the flat sections. The only thing he can hope for is actually for a few people to get in front of him for then an early bib on the second leg to do his thing.
Italy with Luca De Aliprandini. 14th in the World Championship Giant Slalom. A bit of a disappointment for Luca. Now, Luca is one of those racers that needs some top 15 results under his belt. He's struggled on tour this season, 18th and 21st. His best World Cup results. And as a skier who just specialises in giant slalom, as you said earlier, Ed, he's come a long way to try and earn those points today. Yeah, and like you say, Nick, he really does need them. So he's not got an opportunity other than to perform, really. You just wonder whether this surface is going to suit it, that sort of drifting style that he has at the top of the turn. So important to find the balance when he does this sort of drift and punch. If he drifts slightly too much, you give away tenths of a second almost at every single turn. But he's got some lovely turns when he goes right. But too often than not, the timing's not quite there, and the next split is absolutely crucial. And he's 1.44. It's gone. That rut is starting to deepen on the racing line, or through the racing line. Slightly slower turn. The slip crews are out on course as quick as they possibly can. But the Italians' woes continue. 1.62 off the pace. Luca De Aliprandini down in 11th position. There's no outlet when you're a one discipline skier, is there? You don't have the opportunity to go, do you know what, I'll stick the slalom skis on and I'll give it a go, and that'll help me reset my GS. It's a lot of pressure on, 10 races? Yeah, it's a very good point, and Luca De Aliprandini is running out of time. Let's go back to the French team carrying bib 13. Mathieu Faivre, 10 giant slalom World Cup podiums, 2 victories against his name, but he's having a disaster. Mathieu, only 19th in the defence of his world title at the World Champs in Courchevel. Never better than 17th on the World Cup Giant Slalom this tour. It's a very similar story to Luca De Aliprandini before him. He needs points. WCSL world ranking points, and you earn those by finishing in the top 15, top 10 to be honest, Ed. Otherwise, Faivre's rank will plummet. Yeah, with the WCSL, it's quite a complicated structure, so I won't bore you with the whole thing, but it takes a long time for you to build the points to start in those top groups, but the minute you start to plummet out, it's really difficult, and then you get that pressure on your own shoulders. 2-3 bad results, and all of a sudden you're starting outside the 30, and it makes that comeback so much harder, and this guy needs a really big performance, and he's not been able to do that all season long. Plenty of rumours about his choice of skis and how he's working through the change from one brand to another. But Mathieu Faivre, again, some good turns to the halfway point, and then it's all slipping away for the Frenchman. The disappointment continues for Mathieu. Oh, well, he stood up before the finish there. He knows it's not good. He can feel it. He can feel that underfoot, that it's not that clean arc and turn that he was hoping for. Dropping down into 12th position, one of the slowest so far on this first of 2 rounds. Just zero confidence, and you can see that. No commitment over the outside ski. The thing I think is difficult is as most people know, the brand, like Salomon, don't make a bad ski. He just hasn't been able to have enough time to tap into it. So he'll get there, but it's just going to take him a lot longer. Another skier that's looking to make amends for a frustrating World Championships is Filip Zubcic. Now, the only Croatian in the top seed here today. Filip with a PB of 8th in giant slalom, never better than 15th in slalom. So close to the medals, Ed, 8th and 11th in GS and slalom in Courchevel. I think here's another skier that's yet to hit top gear on the tour this season. Yeah, I think, do you know what? At this point, you'd have to say that he's had such a bad season by his standards. You know, previous seasons he was taking World Cup podiums virtually every week. So I think he's just a bit of a reset season, maybe. He's just struggling to find his consistency, and this snow surface definitely isn't something that the powerful legs that this guy has is going to sort of be able to bring his quickest skiing, I don't think. Yeah, I think his timing is missing as well. 1 or 2 turns you think, oh, Zubcic is back, and then as he gets to full speed pace and tempo, like there, he just searches for too much, yeah, power under the ski. It's a short phase of pressure, and I think so often that ends up being up into the air. Yep, absolutely. Zubcic again frustrating, 1.09 seconds off the pace, 10th position, which is not that bad. But I thought this season would be his big breakthrough season with multiple victories, and it's gone the other way. Yeah, I do wonder, because when he was at his best, slalom was definitely a secondary discipline.
and now slalom is looks like an equally sort of focused discipline for him. I just wonder, you know, we talk about multi-discipline skiing, how important it is, but at the same time, could it have taken something away from his GS skiing? He'd say no, but we can only guess.
He's got 12 races to prove us wrong. Let's go to Stefan Brennsteiner, wearing bib 15, the last of the top-ranked skiers. Now, Brennsteiner, perhaps one of the unluckiest men at the World Championships, finishing the World Championship giant slalom race in 4th position. And also never better than 7th on the World Cup Tour. So Brennsteiner will be looking for some good results in the final 4 giant slaloms of the season. Oh, he's got very low and late there on the breakaway and the steep pitch. Great recovery skills from Brennsteiner. It seems to have fired him up, and he's looking for another gear right now, but lucky to be on his feet.
Yeah, it was a quick recovery though, wasn't it? He was way offline and managed to get it back. Let's hope he hasn't managed. Yeah, there you go. He didn't manage to chuck too much away, and he has got a beautiful touch on the ski. Lovely feeling. It's all about being able to feel what's happening underneath his feet, and he's carrying some really good speed at the moment. It's great skiing at this stage.
31 years of age from Zell in the heart of the Austrian Alps. Brennsteiner now needs to dig deep, show he's got some power and pace in the closeout. Just looking a little tired, a little scrappy perhaps in his closing turns, but the work on the upper section was there. Brennsteiner into the top 10, 8th position. 2 Austrians in the top 10, but there is no question Marco Odermatt, the champion of giant slalom, at the top of the table. Now let's have a close look at the time differences. Odermatt is 1/4 of a second clear of Pinturault, 0.33 ahead of Lucas Braathen. Mocco Schwarz 4/10 off the pace. Jan Kranjec is in 5th position. Kristoffersen, well, we thought his day was over. Only 0.66 off the pace and in 6th position. Ed, your comments on the top 3 in slow-mo replay.
Braathen, I think, skied really well, took advantage of that early bib, because I think with the ruts and bumps he may have found himself a bit further away. Alexis Pinturault looks a bit rejuvenated, doesn't he, after those home World Championships? Was super consistent down there, very few errors. Marco Odermatt, what more can you say about the guy? Straight out of the gate, pushed really hard. He was very balanced on the skis, had a good touch, good feeling, dealt with a few ruts and bumps that have started to form. I think it's good, because we're only, what have we got, 4/10 separating the top 4. It's definitely not done and dusted here.
Good words, and I think there's some very talented skiers in the next group that will draw an awful lot of attention, including the next racer on course, because Aleksander Kilde will be the next skier to race, carrying bib number 16 for the Norwegian team, as he attempts to chase down the points to stop Marco Odermatt running away with the overall tour title for successive seasons. Welcome back to all of our Eurosport TV viewers. Kilde will be the next man to race, then Windingstad, Murisier, Della, Vite, Erik Read, Raphael Haase and Patrick Fürstein. If you're just joining us live here, we're in Palisades, Tahoe for giant slalom 7 of 10 on the Audi FIS Alpine Ski Racing World Cup Tour. A giant slalom today, a slalom scheduled for tomorrow. And here is Aleksander Kilde. He already told us in Courchevel in an interview that he's going to chase all of his races, bar the slalom, to the World Cup finals to keep the heat on Marco Odermatt. And can he pick it up, Ed, where he left off? His last World Cup giant slalom was in Schladming, last stop on the men's tour, where he picked up 8th position. And look at this big green light on the inviting opening turns.
Yeah, well, he's used his speed skiing skills in that tucking section, hasn't he? Built up a big advantage, but a few errors have crept in, and I'd be surprised if he's got that much of a green light, if at all, at this point. But again, lovely smooth work over the roll. He finds himself only 0.05 of a second behind, but he's got to try and find the balance. He's got to find the touch and feeling, and at the moment he's just getting bounced around slightly too much to stay in touch.
Well, the lady of his life did the double here in 2017. Michaela Schifrin won giant slalom and slalom. I wonder if he's had a few words of wisdom from his other half. But here's the double world championship silver medalist, now looking to use his trademark power closeout to threaten Marco Odermatt here. Perhaps not looking for the podium, but good enough to go into 12th position. Take another few spots off that, and top 10 is the target for Kilde. Let's hope he can pull it off. Now, we're going to start them very quickly, Ed.
We really are, aren't we?
Because they're worried about the wind and then another snowstorm coming in here. So Rasmus Windingstad is quickly out on track. A brilliant 5th in the season opener. How long ago was that? On the 23rd of October, back in 2022. It looks like they're having no problem to push the limits and targets set by Odermatt on the upper part of the challenge. It looks like the lower turns are the make or break.
Yeah, because I think there's a bit more heat. You can see the sun beating on that snow surface, which I think just pulls a bit of moisture into it, so it's able to freeze up slightly. Look at that, he's found another couple of tenths of a second ahead of Odermatt, but this is the crucial part now, into the shade, into the shadow, where the snow isn't quite as hard and the conditions are starting to get bumpy. You've just got to try and stay smooth, try and keep it clean in those transitions.
This is nice work from Rasmus Windingstad, trying to stay high on the top of the rut rather than get bounced in the trough. And this is Rasmus Windingstad looking to put yet another Norwegian into the top flight for the second run. Windingstad goes third. Brilliant performance from start number 17. Good work from Rasmus. Quickly out on track, 18 for the Swiss team. Justin Murisier out of Verbier in the Swiss Alps. Absolutely gutted, Ed, that he didn't get picked for the Swiss giant slalom squad. Here's a racer with a point to prove on track today.
Yeah, and how best to go about putting that wrong right is absolutely going out there and proving a point, doing the business here on race day. And he started off really nicely, but he's another power athlete, he's another power player on the World Cup Tour that needs to find the touch, needs to find the feeling. But you can see the course is still holding up. We just saw that from Windingstad, that if you can find that balance, the time's there for the taking.
And the time is already definitely there for Murisier, 300ths of a second off the pace at split time interval 2. And he's another power play athlete that has got huge reserves, not only in the thighs, but very good in the core as well. The tummy muscles are super strong from Murisier, and that balance and position over the skis in these closing turns could put the Swiss racer into the hunt. As we've said, a point to prove for Murisier. Oh, no! 3 from home. Gets all twisted, cutting the line too tight in the closeout. 15th position. Apologies for the loss of graphics on screen. That's such a shame for Murisier. Lapsing concentration, perhaps. Trying to cut it a little too tight. Let's go on to Filippo Della Vite from the Italian team. Very exciting young prospect for the Italians at just 21 years of age. 10th in the World Championship Giant Slalom. 11th his PB on the tour for this season. And Della Vite seems to improve with every race that he takes to.
Was it they had the monster second run in Courchevel where he moved up a bunch of places because he absolutely got the bit between the teeth, and he'll be looking to do exactly the same thing down here. Totally different snow surface as we've already talked about. So can he blend that power with the feeling? Because that's nice again. Look how he's getting into some big angles, but a lot of pressure happening after the gate, which is causing him to bounce through that rut.
Yeah, and if you looked at Murisier and Windingstad's before, they were a split second higher in the initiation of the turn. And there you see, comes out of the rut and gets them completely sideways. But Della Vite's made it to the line, and the Italian, 17th position, 0.166 off the pace.
It's going to be tight, isn't it, Nick, still for a second run here today. The guys are already getting tightly packed in there in the sort of teen positions, but a good recovery on that steep.
Erik Read of Canada carries bib number 20, World Championship bronze medalist in the parallel team competition. The Canadian alpine skiers flew home to a real welcome from the Canadian ski race fans after the team's record-breaking performance. But it's back to business as usual now on the World Cup Tour. Erik Read gets a green light at split time interval 1. Now finds himself with a red light, which means he's 0.44 off the pace of our current leader.
He's normally so smooth though, isn't he? So that should play into his hands on this lower closeout if he can keep those skis on the snow surface and keep the momentum from turn to turn. Doesn't look too bad, just out to over a second now. Can't afford to give much more away.
Qualification for the second run now becomes the key characteristic of this race piece. Only the fastest 30 come back to race that second leg, and they'll start in reverse order, remember. 1.66 off the pace, 17th position. Well, Erik Read will have to wait patiently to see whether that is good enough to guarantee a second leg. 60 starters on the first run, top 30 come back for the second leg.